I'm Shannon. Standing in the middle of the company's conference room, I'm surrounded by a tense atmosphere. My brother Ethan and his wife, Vivian, are staring at me with disbelief and anger. Ethan's face is red with rage, and Vivian's eyes are filled with panic. The lawyer stands beside me, holding a document that has just turned our world upside down. It all started with my family's business. My father, Henry, was a self-made man. He came from a poor farming family in the countryside. With sheer determination and hard work, he moved to the city and started a small trading company. My mother, Lily, was a kind-hearted woman who always supported my father's dreams. She was also very wise and taught me the value of hard work and integrity from a young age. I've been involved in my father's business since I was a teenager. After high school, instead of going to a fancy college like my brother, I decided to stay and learn from Mr. Clark, a senior employee in the company. Mr. Clark treated me like an equal, not just as the boss's daughter. He taught me everything about the company's operations, from supply chain management to customer relations. Ethan, on the other hand, went to a top-tier business school. He was convinced that he would inherit the company one day. His friends always told him how lucky he was to have such a bright future. When they asked him if he was worried about me competing with him, he just laughed and said I was more interested in the behind-the-scenes work and had no ambition for power. Ethan married Vivian, a woman who loved luxury. She always wore the most expensive clothes and jewelry. Ethan wanted to impress her, so he spent a fortune on a big mansion and took her on luxurious vacations. He thought that by living such a lavish lifestyle, he would solidify his position as the future president of the company. Vivian often mocked my simple lifestyle. She would say things like, "Why don't you act like a real business heir? You're missing out on all the fun." I always told her that I found happiness in the work itself and in the relationships I built with the employees. She just pitied me, thinking I didn't know how to manage money. Ethan agreed with her. He criticized my quiet approach, saying a leader needed to be more assertive. I told him that only my father and I truly understood the company's ins and outs. My mother reassured me that my contributions were valuable, and my father nodded in agreement. But Ethan and Vivian weren't convinced. They distanced themselves from us for about 2 months, continuing their extravagant lifestyle. During this time, my father was working day and night to expand the company. One evening, he suddenly grabbed his chest in pain. I was so scared. I told him to sit down and promised to call an ambulance. He was struggling to speak, but he pointed to a drawer and whispered, "There's a letter for you. If something happens to me, read it. The rest is for the lawyers." Before the ambulance arrived, he fainted and never woke up. Ethan and Vivian were on a vacation in the Caribbean. They came back days later, as if their late arrival didn't matter. At the funeral, Ethan casually said, "At least we made it back in time. Who would have thought Dad would pass away while we were gone?" I was so shocked by his indifference. My mother and I had to handle everything alone. I pulled him aside and asked, "Could you have come back earlier?" He just replied, "I had already booked our return flight," without any remorse. After the funeral, Ethan addressed the employees. He said, "Thank you all for your support. From now on, trust me to lead the company in my father's place." Vivian was beaming with pride, expecting everyone to praise him. I was annoyed by their arrogance, so I led them to the meal table to avoid further embarrassment. During the meal, Ethan kept showing off. He even criticized the food. I reminded him that my mother and I had made all the arrangements. I said, "I don't need you telling me what to do. People don't really understand what it means to be a president." His arrogance didn't stop there. He started ordering the employees around, including Mr. Clark. I stepped in and said firmly, "Ethan, don't be disrespectful. These people deserve our respect." He scoffed and said, "I'm the president now. They should respect me." Vivian chimed in, "That's right, Shannon. Stop arguing with Ethan. He's the company president now. If you don't listen, he can fire you. Just then, a man stepped forward. He said, "Sorry to interrupt. Your father entrusted me with handling his estate." He was the lawyer my father had hired before his death. Ethan and Vivian were excited at the mention of the inheritance. They thought they were about to get the company and a huge sum of money. But as the lawyer started speaking, Ethan's face turned pale. He asked, "Wasn't my father's inheritance worth $300 million? Vivian's face lit up. She said, $300 million? Owning a company with that kind of money is a dream come true. The employees started whispering among themselves. Vivian commanded, "Everyone be silent. This is the moment when the company and $300 million officially belong to Ethan." But then, one employee couldn't help but laugh. Ethan held the will in his hands, his eyes scanning the words. Vivian sat beside him, looking completely confused. As he read further, his expression turned to horror. According to the will, the entire company was to be passed down to me, Shannon. Ethan stared at the document in disbelief and shouted, "This can't be right. This is a mistake." The lawyer calmly replied, "This is a legally valid will." Ethan's voice grew strained with frustration. He said, "I don't accept this. How could Shannon be chosen as president over me? Dad must have been confused when he wrote this." The lawyer said that if my father wasn't of sound mind, the will could be challenged, but it would require proof. I couldn't stand them questioning my father's judgment. I said, "I won't let anyone, family or not, tarnish my father's reputation. You've never truly contributed to the company. How can you lead it?" Ethan scoffed and said, "That's ridiculous. Vivian and I even built a grand house fit for a company president. We worked hard to make me look the part." I countered, "So, you think leadership is about appearances? Wasting money on luxury homes and fine dining doesn't reflect well on the company. Besides, wasn't it Dad who paid for most of it?" He glared at me and asked, "How would you even know that?" I took a deep breath and said, "Before he passed, Dad left me a letter. In it, he listed every expense he covered for you, including your house and lavish spending. He considered that your share of the inheritance, which means you won't be receiving anything more." Vivian's face twisted in panic. She asked, "Wait a minute. Are you saying the $300 million inheritance is gone? That's not fair if we got almost nothing from it." One of the employees who had laughed earlier stepped forward and said, "The $300 million was never personal wealth. It came from the company's funds. All of us employees have always known that." Vivian's face fell. She asked, "So, company money isn't something we can inherit?" I confirmed, "No, it belongs to the business, not the family." "So, if you were expecting a big payout, Vivian, I wouldn't count on it." Vivian sighed dramatically and said, "This is unbelievable. I was so excited about that $300 million and now, nothing." Suddenly, Ethan stood up and turned to the employees. He said, "Do you really want someone as ordinary as Shannon running the company? I'm the one with leadership qualities. I have the same presence as my father." But no one agreed with him. Mr. Clark stepped forward and said, "Your father was a great leader who built this company from nothing, but you're nothing like him. What you call presence is just arrogance." Ethan clenched his fists and said, "That's not true." Mr. Clark remained calm and said, "Ethan, you're technically part of the company, but we rarely see you actually working." Ethan snapped, "That's because I have bigger responsibilities. I'm busy networking. I don't have time for day-to-day tasks." Mr. Clark shook his head and said, "Networking isn't enough. Shannon has been here every day, working quietly and handling responsibilities behind the scenes." His words resonated with the employees. They all nodded in agreement. I was deeply touched by their support. I said, "Thank you, everyone. This was unexpected, but I've watched my father pour his heart into this company, and I care about it just as much as he did. I'll do my best, and I hope to work alongside all of you." The room filled with applause, and I bowed in gratitude. Encouraged by their support, I spoke firmly. I said, "Each of you has played a crucial role in making this company what it is. Anyone who disregards your efforts isn't fit to be part of this company, let alone lead it. And yes, even a president can be removed if they fail to do their job." Ethan scowled and said, "What are you even saying? I'm your brother." I met his gaze without hesitation and said, "And yet, you were the one who said you'd fire me if you became president." His face twisted in frustration. He said, "You can't be serious. I'm family." I remained resolute and said, "Family or not, I won't keep an incompetent employee on the payroll." He shouted, "This is insane." Desperate, he turned to the employees for support, but they just stared back, unimpressed. Realizing he had no allies, Ethan and Vivian stormed out. From that moment on, Ethan was officially out of the company. The small inheritance he received didn't last long. Eventually, he came to me asking for a loan. I was so frustrated with his unwillingness to change. I told my mother not to give him any money. The friends who once admired Ethan disappeared when they realized he was no longer the company's future leader. Vivian, who once imagined herself as the wife of a powerful businessman, found herself in a completely different reality. In the end, they were forced to sell their mansion. The money helped them maintain their lifestyle for a short while, but without a stable income, it ran out quickly. Eventually, they had nothing left. Desperate, they tried to find jobs, but with no real experience, no one would hire them. Ethan ended up working part-time at a convenience store, struggling to take orders from younger employees. Vivian, who had always been a full-time housewife, had no choice but to work as a supermarket cashier, spending long hours on her feet for a modest paycheck. Meanwhile, I've been pouring my energy into running the company. With Mr. Clark and the rest of the employees by my side, we've worked together to grow the business. Ironically, Ethan's downfall has only brought the employees closer, solidifying our team. I've made a promise to my mother. We'll continue expanding the business and honor my father's legacy.